start the, okay, so for all our fans out there in TV land, this is the Board of Health meeting of September the 4th. And we have a quorum that consists of me, Catherine Hilton, also Wim Levine, Garrett Simonson, and Arlene Reed. And I'm going for the record for a short meeting tonight. I have guests and I want to get through this. On the agenda, as I recall, we have, first of all, the minutes, the second update on 56 Wendell Road, and we have a well permit thing that I want to talk about. So let's start with the minutes.
I have read them and I think they seem great, and well, there may be discussion, so I won't make a motion yet, but.
Well, you can move it and second it, and then we'll discuss.
I move to accept the minutes of our last meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Anything that you would like to have added or subtracted or expanded? And they're fairly cursory.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. So all in favor of accepting the minutes? Arlene?
Yes.
Wim?
Yes.
Garrett?
Yes.
Kat, yes. Now, with respect to 56 Wendell Road, I sent out the demolition order. I talked to the homeowner. I texted the homeowner and made sure that he knew that he could request a hearing. He has not requested a hearing within 7 days of receipt of the order. So we must assume that the conditions of the order are acceptable to him. He did tell me that he seems to be on the verge of actually contracting with somebody who can cut through some of the red tape. Says he does not need to have the well connected. All he needs is to have some big vats of water that Greg can provide. And he gave him an approximate date of early October. So I'm hoping that
commencing the project.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And I would assume that once it's commenced, it'll go pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't spend days slowly taking it down. You just knock it down. Did you see him knock down that house up by the common that time? They just came with this big backhoe and they just started.
What is the 60-day point, Kat?
Well, let's see. He would have received the order like last Monday.
Okay.
And so what would that be? That was at the end of August. So we were talking about the end of October.
Okay.
And was the well connection or access to water for the purpose of potential fire suppression or
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would also assume that would there be communication with the fire department that it was going to happen, just, you know, so that they're aware? And
that's a good point. That's a good point. As we get closer to it, I will inquire about that.
And can you remind me, please, does the 60-day time frame refer to when he must have completed the demolition or when he must have begun the demolition, or theoretically, it should be completely demolished within 60 days. You know, if he's got it halfway done, 60 days in, right.
Obviously we can stretch that a little bit, but
sure.
But and I tried to make that point forcefully in person.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's the status of that. There's no action that we need to take except to note that we have not received a request for a hearing.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is 30 Sumner Mountain Road. That's Kathleen Lugosh, and she has, or her well driller has submitted an application for a geothermal well, a closed loop geothermal well. So they make this loop and they seal it with bentonite, and it no longer has any connection to the groundwater. It's actually quite an interesting thing. It's 500 feet of loop, for heating purposes. And the reason the guy from Connecticut Valley Artesian Well got in touch with me is that it doesn't quite meet all the setbacks that we use for a drinking water well. The specific setbacks that we would have to vary are the setback from the driveway. It's supposed to be 15 feet and he's asking for 5. And the setback from the property line is supposed to be 25 and he's asking for 15. Now, my understanding is that all of these setback provisions are for the purpose of securing clean drinking water, which is not at issue here. The extent to which our well regs really intersect with these geothermal wells is kind of vague. So what I am suggesting that we do is grant these variances, which our well regs allow us to grant variances to basically any provision. So we're within our rights to do this. But also I'm thinking that, well, the guy told me also, Joe Dilk Sr. of Connecticut Valley Artesian Well told me that he was part of I don't know, a task force or some kind of committee to develop, I'm not sure if it's state regulations or state guidelines for geothermal wells, and they have setback recommendations in that document that was created, which I haven't been able to see yet. That I think these are the setbacks for these particular pieces. And it seems to me that this would be a good thing for us to incorporate in some way into our well regs, right? So that we would have our drinking water regs, and then perhaps we would also have a fairly brief section saying, this is all for drinking water. When it comes to geothermal wells, we will use the provisions of whatever this state document is. Any thoughts about that? I mean, obviously we don't know the details because I haven't seen it yet, but I'm hoping he's going to send me a link in the next couple of days.
Yeah, that's a perfectly fine idea, but back to the specific case, does the abutter need to be notified if he's going to be within 15 feet?
I don't think so. I don't think that if you, well, let's see. From the property line is going from 25 to 15. I don't think that you have to have any kind of survey or notification if it is if it's more than, as long as it's more than 5 feet.
Okay.
But that's a really good question, ma'am. I'm trying to think how we would find it out. It's not included in our well regs, right? There's nothing in the regs about notifying abutters. So where would that kind of notification requirement, where would that come from?
Concom has extensive abutter notification provisions for any sort of land works. It's there.
Right, but I don't think that that they would have anything to do with us.
Yeah, I don't know.
When a septic system is being installed, if they come within a certain distance of the property line, it has, if it goes into this sort of buffer zone, then they have to have a survey. But I think that is less than 15 feet. I think it's like 5 feet.
Great. Then that probably covers it.
Probably what I could do, I like this point that you're making. What I could do is I'll look in Title 5 and see what that setback is. And if it is 15 feet or
more.
more, then perhaps we should revisit it. But if it's like 5 or 10 feet, I think we could follow the example, the model that we get from Title V.
Sounds good.
And just so that I'm understanding, so is it that the well itself or the piping for the geothermal comes within that?
My understanding is that basically it goes down and it comes up, so it's basically,
So it's
it's not going off horizontally.
horizontal.
It's basically a vertical thing.
Okay.
So let's talk about how this plays out in an administrative sense. If, by the example of Title V, it is legitimate for us to issue this well permit without requiring a surveyed property line. That's plan A, right? I look at Title V, there's no objection to his going 15 feet, it's 15 feet, right, from the property line. Then I would like to be able to go ahead and sign the permit.
Mhm.
Okay. What about if it's not? I mean, for all I know, there is a surveyed property line. Right? We would have to find that out. Okay, so if 15 feet is a good distance per the example of Title V, I would like to be able to sign the permit. If 15 feet is not a good distance, but there is a surveyed property line that's marked on the property, I would like also to be able to go ahead and sign the permit. If 15 feet is not good and there's no surveyed property line, is the sense of the meeting that I should require a survey? That would really slow things down.
Well, it might be necessary though, because what if it is over the property
Right?
line?
There's
Exactly.
that, yeah, there's that.
Right.
Let me look for a second. He did send me a plot plan as part of the submission. And I will find it and share it with you. But it might be kind of hard to look at. Okay, so I want to share my screen. And I'm not knowing how to do that.
Should be at the bottom of your screen, Kat, an arrow, a green, mine shows a arrow and a green background labeled share.
I don't seem to have that. Oh, I found it. I found it. It's one of those things that comes and goes. Okay, so I'm sorry that this isn't easier to look at. But you can see that the subject property there is the one that's outlined in yellow. And
Mhm.
So Sumner Mountain Road Common Driveway. I wonder if this is one of those Doug Cole projects from way back then. Well, this doesn't really tell us anything that we would need to know, except that quite possibly it has been surveyed.
Yeah.
So how would you like me to proceed?
I think the way you laid it out before, if it's greater than 15 feet, go ahead. If it's less than 15 feet, but I would say, but greater than 5 feet and the line has been surveyed, go ahead. If it's less than 15 feet and there is no survey, please provide a survey, perhaps.
Mhm.
And if it's less than 5 feet, maybe that's a sticking point.
Well, if it's less than 5 feet, if Title V says you can do whatever you want up to 5 feet of the property line without getting a survey, then this guy's golden because he's got 15 feet.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
that's what he says. Yep.
Yeah. So it's a matter of if 15 feet requires a property line survey, then we need that. But if like 5 or 10 feet require a property line survey, then he's good. And I can go ahead and issue the permit. Would somebody like to put together a motion to express all that?
I could try. I move that the permit be approved in accordance with the Title V provisions. If the proposed work is 15 or more feet from the property line, or if it is 15 between 5 and 15 feet from the property line with a surveyed boundary.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Does that sound right?
Yes,
Okay. Do I
I
hear a
see.
second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
I would, not to complicate things, but I'm just curious to know whether or not, I'm curious about whether Title V applies to non-drinking water wells. We know that it does?
Well, no. Title V doesn't really apply to wells at all, except as
Septic systems,
setbacks,
right.
except as setbacks from septic.
So our well, I'm just curious about our role as Board of Health in permitting non-drinking water wells. Do we have a mandate to do that? I know this is sort of a question at the root of this whole.
Well, yeah, that is a good question. The only answer I can really give to you is that when we got our first application for geothermal well, which I think was in 2006 on West Pelham Road,
Okay.
Bill was in charge and he had them get a permit, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So precedent has been set. At
I
least
believe that is the case.
the level of our
So,
operations.
just so that we continue to have the information on our files about what's been drilled into the ground.
Okay.
know?
Got it. Okay.
Right. And the only reason we're bringing Title V into it is that Title V gives us some precedent for how close you can go to the property line
Sure.
Without having a survey or notification or
Sure.
whatever.
Got that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion?
So I'm just doing some quick Googling here, just trying to understand this. So there are, it seems that there are some provisions in the DEP. I gotta get to the top of the document here. Hold on. In the DEP private well guidelines
But that's
Or
private drinking water well guidelines?
yes,
Hmm.
for geothermal well permits,
Oh,
including dual purpose
mhm.
geothermal
Which
system.
this is not, yeah.
So, but here, what they mean by dual purpose is that it could be for both or one or the other, I think is what they're getting at here.
I see.
I don't see, just in quick glance of the document, I don't see anything about setbacks
Hmm.
per se.
Mhm.
So I just throw that out as a discussion point that
Uh-huh. Well,
there
this
might-
guy
there
Joe
might be
did
some-
say that there were setbacks, and I guess he thought he was within them, and then he looked at our well regs and saw that he was not, because ours were more stringent, but of course ours are for drinking water wells.
Hmm.
I mean, the other things, the other discussion points that I'm seeing come up are around, in terms of setbacks, are around the withdrawal rate,
Mm-hmm.
and that, and you know, that this is out of Connecticut, but
Uh-huh.
that higher withdrawal rates require a greater setback.
Uh-huh. Well, there basically wouldn't be a withdrawal rate in this because it's a closed,
Because it's close.
Right.
right?
But
So
this
it's not like it's
this
going to
is,
draw down water
yeah,
well.
but this is talking about closed loop too.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't
Huh.
have a lot of knowledge in this area, so.
Yeah.
No, no, me neither.
It's interesting that in almost 20 years, this is only the second one of these that has come before us.
I have an idea that there might have been one or two others, but they didn't have the problems with the setbacks, so they were easy for us to issue.
Okay.
I think my neighbor, the Scott, at that time it was the Scott Lundbergs. I think they have.
A geothermal well.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that there's more than just that one, but there aren't very many. Not yet, but I think there are going to be more and more.
Sure. Okay.
Do we know the setback from the neighboring well?
We possibly do. I'd have to get a better look at the plot plan that he sent. All right, we're talking about 500 feet of a comparatively narrow tube, basically.
Oh.
So it's
Mhm.
Probably not going to draw down. There's going to be an initial drawdown, but when you consider a drinking water well, right, it would be like a constant draw, right? This presumably, if I understand it right, is a one-time draw, and then it's just constantly recirculated.
Mhm. Okay.
So we have a motion on the table. Is there more discussion on this motion? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. Wim,
Yes.
Arlene,
Yes.
Garrett,
Yes.
and Kat, yes. So if all goes well, I'll issue it, and if not, I will request a survey.
Yep.
Okay. That is all I've got. Is there anything else that should come before us? Any updates or information or questions? Awesome. We are at 7:24. I don't think that's a record, but it's very close. Are we ready to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Garrett, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kat.
Goodbye.
Well,
See you in a couple weeks.
okay, bye.
Bye.